Okay, let's jump right into a deep dive on a really complex and, well, frankly, quite a tense situation unfolding right now.
Yeah, between Thailand and Cambodia, things seem to be escalating.
Definitely. And we're basing this whole deep dive on a stack of sources you've provided. We've got reports from diplomatic meetings, troop movements, political statements.
And some expert analysis, too, trying to make sense of it all.
Exactly. Our mission here is to take all this information, sort of cut through the noise, and pull out the crucial bits.
Give you a clear picture of what's happening from the negotiating table right down to the border itself.
Think of this as your shortcut to getting up to speed on what's a pretty fast-moving situation.
So where do we start? The diplomatic side.
Yeah, let's begin there. There's this Joint Boundary Commission, the JBC, meeting happening right now in Phnom Penh, June 14th and 15th.
And what's striking right off the bat is that this is the sixth JBC meeting, sure, but it's the first one in, what, 12 years?
12 years. That gap itself tells you something, doesn't it?
It suggests this mechanism hasn't exactly been working smoothly for a long time.
And the reports from day one, June 14th, they immediately sounded, well, a bit off-key. You get that sense of tension straight away.
How so?
Well, Thailand's Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesperson back in Bangkok said the meeting was going well and discussions were frank and candid.
Ah, frank and candid. Diplomatic speak.
Right. Sounds positive on the surface, but often, it really means there were some pretty clear disagreements, maybe sharp ones.
It's definitely not the language you use when everything's harmonious.
And the Cambodian side seemed to confirm that lack of harmony. The sources say their JBC chairman stated very directly, no agreements on anything discussed on day one.
Wow. Okay, so zero agreements. That's blunt.
It is. And then there's this other fascinating thing about communication, or maybe miscommunication.
What's that?
That press conference back in Bangkok. Cambodia apparently saw it as a unilateral move by Thailand, not reflecting anything actually agreed upon in the JBC meeting.
So the press conference itself became a sticking point. Enough to pause the meeting.
Seems like it. And it's interesting because the person who held the presser was the spokesperson in Bangkok, not the actual head of the Thai delegation in Phnom Penh.
That adds another layer of potential disconnect.
Our sources also point out that this JBC thing, it's technically for border demarcation, right? Specific technical stuff.
Yeah, drawing lines on maps, essentially.
But it seems like it's now being used to tackle these much broader political and military issues, things that might not really be set up to handle effectively.
Trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, maybe.
Could be. And inside the meeting, the sources say Thailand was focused on the 2000 MOU as the basis for discussion.
The established framework. Makes sense from their perspective.
But Cambodia's stance,
Yeah.
totally different according to the reports. They wanted to just remove those 4 specific disputed border points from the JBC agenda altogether.
Take them off the table entirely for this forum.
Yeah. So that's a pretty fundamental disagreement right there about what they should even be talking about. Explains the no agreements part.
Okay, so while this strained diplomacy is happening, things aren't exactly quiet elsewhere, are they?
Not at all. Our sources show this whole other level of escalation playing out, especially through some very strong political messages coming out of Cambodia.
Led by Prime Minister Hun Manet and his father Hun Sen involved, too.
That's right. And the sources highlight something really significant here.
Because
This talk, this threat, really, of potentially evacuating hundreds of thousands of Cambodian workers from Thailand.
wow, that's a huge number of people, a massive economic and social disruption if it happened.
And it's not just talk. Hun Manet apparently posted about it on Facebook, sources say, even included a picture with workers and laid out very detailed preparedness plans.
Detailed how?
Extremely detailed. Ministries, the army, 7 border provinces in Cambodia, all reportedly getting ready. Temporary facilities, food, medicine.
Transport, too.
Yeah, lining up military and school buses to move people from the border and planning job assistance back in Cambodia.
Which is interesting, given the sources mentioned Cambodia actually has a labor shortage right now.
Right, and even financial aid loan relief, interest relief via Cambodian banks for any workers who return. It's quite comprehensive.
So how are the sources interpreting this? It sounds less like a contingency plan and more like something else.
Exactly. The sources see it as an unfriendly posture, not a reaction to anything Thailand has said about sending workers back, but a deliberate move by Cambodia to, quote, create a situation.
To apply pressure. Significant pressure.
That seems to be the reading. And it fits with other things mentioned, like previous threats to block Thai goods or encourage Cambodians to buy elsewhere.
So it's part of a pattern. These aren't isolated incidents.
The sources suggest these escalations, the statements, the plans are happening daily. They seem deliberate, well-planned, and designed to keep the tension high.
Okay, so diplomatic strain, political pressure. What about the military side? That's often where things get really concerning.
And the sources definitely touch on that. There's a report from the Thai Army spokesperson, Major General Wintai Suvari,
What's he reporting?
that Cambodia is positioning troops at several points along the border.
Okay, troop movements aren't necessarily unusual, depending on the context.
True, but there's a specific detail here that raises alarms. The sources say Cambodian forces are aiming artillery. They use the Thai term other tattered. Big guns.
Aiming artillery.
Yes, aiming artillery capable of reaching into Thai sovereign territory towards Thailand.
Okay, that's definitely not routine. Where's this happening?
The sources pinpoint it near Prasat Don Tuan and Satisum temples, that's in Ban Pham Chor, Kantharlak district, Sisikit province.
In Thailand's view on this.
They consider it, unsurprisingly, a security threat, a clear one.
So what's the Thai military doing in response?
The spokesperson said the army is adjusting its own deployment to, quote, match the situation.
So mirroring the buildup, potentially.
It seems that way. And remember, this military tension is happening while the JBC talks are supposed to be going on.
Right. It really underlines that the diplomatic track isn't calming things down on the ground. If anything, the opposite.
The tension is definitely multifaceted, and adding to it is this pattern of, well, communication breakdowns and kind of sudden unilateral actions right at the border crossings.
Like what?
We saw these sudden temporary closures of border checkpoints, specifically for agricultural goods, happened yesterday, June 13th, at Ban Lem in Chanthaburi.
And today, too?
And again today, June 14th, at Ban Hat Lek in Trat.
Tell us more about what happened at Ban Hat Lek today. The source had details.
Yeah, according to the source, Cambodian authorities over at their checkpoint Cham just suddenly stopped allowing agricultural goods, vegetables, fruits from entering around noon.
With no warning, no explanation.
None reported, just stopped.
What?
Small traders who were right there, ready to cross, had to turn back.
That's disruptive, especially for people whose livelihoods depend on that daily trade.
Absolutely. And the sources mentioned Thai officials and the traders were just left waiting, trying to get some kind of clarification from the Cambodian side. But nothing came.
Just silence. Adds to the feeling of unpredictability.
And then there's this other strange communication issue or potential issue, this rumor about a leaked chat.
A leaked chat. From who?
Supposedly from Ambassador Prasart Vinichai, the head of the Thai JBC team. There's this rumor going around that in this chat, he supposedly accepted Cambodia's map.
Accepted their map. You mean the 1.200,000 scale map?
That's the one mentioned in the rumor, instead of Thailand's preferred 1.50,000 scale.
Has this been confirmed?
No. The MFA spokesperson, according to the sources, said they'd heard the rumor but couldn't confirm it. They were focused on the JBC meeting itself.
But if that rumor were true, even if it's just a rumor now, why would that be such a potentially big deal? Accepting a different map scale?
Well, if it were true, it could seriously weaken Thailand's whole negotiating position on the border demarcation, couldn't it?
Because it implies accepting Cambodia's baseline for the discussion, which is different from Thailand's long-held stance.
Exactly. And publicly, it could create a really negative image, like concessions were being made behind the scenes without transparency.
So even as a rumor, it just adds more confusion and maybe even distrust to the situation.
Definitely another layer of uncertainty. So you put it all together. The tense JBC talks, the conflicting reports, the communication foul-ups.
Layered with the strong political pressure from Cambodia, the worker evacuation threat, the military movements, the artillery aiming.
And then these sudden border closures and this leaked chat rumor, it paints a picture of really significant layered tension.
So given all that, what does it actually mean? Let's bring in the expert analysis mentioned in the sources. Dr. Thanapon Chatnarkop, lecturer in international law.
Right. He talks about Cambodia's plan, their stated plan, to take the case of those 4 disputed points to the International Court of Justice, the ICJ.
And they plan to do that tomorrow, June 15th.
That's the date mentioned, and the source points out the significance of that specific date.
Why June 15th?
It's the 63rd anniversary of Cambodia winning the Previer Temple case at the ICJ.
Ah, okay. So Choosing that date is highly symbolic.
Very much so. It's seen as a political move, likely aimed at boosting domestic morale in Cambodia, linking this new potential case to a famous past victory.
Interesting. So what does Dr. Thanaphan advise Thailand should do, legally and diplomatically?
He really stresses the need for Thailand to have a very clear official stance.
What does that involve specifically?
It means Thailand needs to go on record, publicly and formally, maybe the PM or the foreign minister, maybe even sending a letter straight to the ICJ.
Stating what?
Stating clearly that Thailand does not accept the ICJ's jurisdiction over this particular matter, these 4 specific points.
Okay, why is making that explicit statement so important? What if Thailand just doesn't say anything right away?
The risk is what's called implied consent. If Cambodia files the case and Thailand stays silent, the court could interpret that silence as Thailand passively agreeing that the court has the authority to hear the case.
So Thailand needs to preempt that interpretation by lodging a clear objection to jurisdiction right from the start.
Exactly. Make its position known unequivocally. Dr. Thanaphan also suggests, according to the sources, that Thailand should set up its own domestic working group.
To do what?
To really systematically figure out ways forward on border disputes, acknowledging this is complex, and there might be other issues elsewhere, too.
A more structured internal approach.
Yeah, and he hammers home the need for clear public communication from the Thai government.
Why is that so crucial?
To counter any perception that they're being inactive or caught off guard, especially, the sources note, given maybe some previous statements that suggested the issue was already cleared or handled, manage the narrative.
Okay, and what about the ICJ process itself? Can Cambodia just file and the court has to hear it?
Well, anyone can file a case, the expert clarifies.
But
But whether the court actually takes it up, whether it accepts the case, hinges entirely on jurisdiction.
so Thailand's formal rejection of jurisdiction would be a key factor in the court's decision.
A very significant factor, yes. It would directly challenge the court's basis for hearing the case at all.
What if the JBC really does stall out? Are there other paths forward mentioned?
The JBC is still the agreed mechanism, but if it proves totally ineffective given the current climate, the expert suggests external mediation might be needed.
Within ASEAN, perhaps.
That's the suggestion likely within the ASEAN framework, maybe using the ASEAN Charter as a basis to facilitate talks.
It's also interesting how the expert apparently contrasts the communication styles of the two countries.
How so?
Notes that Cambodia's communication seems quite proactive and systematic. Announcing plans, making specific threats, stating their ICJ intentions clearly.
Which is better for their image, he suggests.
Generally, yes. It makes them look like they have a clear strategy. Whereas Thailand's approach, as seen in the sources, comes across as more reactive.
Responding to Cambodia's moves rather than setting the agenda.
Kind of. Waiting for statements or actions, and then responding, which can sometimes make you look like you're on the back foot.
And finally, the sources touch on the worst-case scenario, potential violence.
Yes, but Dr. Thanaphan is quoted stating very clearly, initiating violence would be a violation of international law.
Okay, so let's try and pull all these threads together from the sources we've looked at.
We've got diplomatic talks happening, but they seem stuck, with disagreements even about how to talk about the talks.
Right. At the same time, Cambodia is ramping up political pressure. The worker evacuation threat is huge, and the timing with the ICJ anniversary seems deliberate.
All layered on top of worrying military moves at the border, the troop positioning, the artillery aiming.
Plus these communication breakdowns, the sudden border closures disrupting trade, and this background noise of rumors like the leaked chat.
It really is a mix of history, international law, economic security, all tangled up and playing out right now.
Which brings us to a final, maybe provocative thought for you, our listener, to mull over after hearing all this.
In complex situations like this one, with so many deep-seated issues, history, law, national pride, economic factors, security concerns, all swirling around.
How much does the style of communication, how effective the dialogue is, actually matter compared to the fundamental national interests and the political will that are driving these actions?
Yeah, and maybe even more fundamentally, when trust seems so low and clear communication feels so difficult, how can neighbors caught in these complex disputes ever find a sustainable path towards resolving them?
Something definitely worth thinking about.